Hello again, and welcome to the 365 Retirement Podcast with the team at Rubino & Lang Wealth Partners. My name is Randy Cook. I'm here each week with the guys as we sit down and talk through some of the issues that you might be thinking about, wondering about, maybe even worried about when it comes to your retirement and finding that person, that group that's going to help you navigate through all of this. Ryan Marston is here today from Rubino & Lang Wealth Partners. Ryan, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great. It's always a pleasure to be here with you, Randy. I'm excited about some of the topics we're going to cover today.
Yeah, it's good to be at this time of the year. Weather cooling off just a little bit. I like that. Little football. It's a good time of year.
Great time of year. Great time of year. Yeah, this fall and spring are my favorites in this area. And then, unfortunately, you got winter sandwiched between them.
There's that. There's always that. But you know what else happens at this time of the year? If you go out and do a little shopping, even in September and moving into October, you would think that we'd be seeing Halloween stuff, which we do, but I can't believe all the red blinky lights out there already. There's Christmas trees. There's all sorts of stuff out there. Costco and Target and Walmart and Home Depot, they're already stocking all the Christmas stuff, which is kind of weird. But it does point us to something, and that is that stuff comes pretty quick. I mean, once we get past Halloween, it just flies all the way through Thanksgiving and to Christmas. And you and I sit down here and talk about financial things, and that means having a meeting with your financial advisor before the end of the year is probably a really good thing. So talk to me about what those meetings look like. What do you talk about? What's handled there? What are the questions that people come in with? Lay the groundwork for me. What happens with that?
Yeah. I mean, October's here, right? Mm-hmm. And now that October's here, we're in the final quarter of the year. Now is the time, when you should be sitting down with your advisor. It's when I start to book review meetings over the course of, the next two and a half months, call it, right, with clients to discuss some pressing year-end matters. A lot to do with a 12/31 deadline, right? Things you need to get done and what you want to look at before the year expires, and you might have lost certain opportunities because of that, right? So, you don't really want to wait until December to reach out. It gives you a little bit of a crunch in terms of timing. So always, I look at it as once the calendar hits October, it's a good time to start looking at those year-end review meetings needed to get done by, the end of the year, December 31st.
So are most of these issues that we're talking about here taxes? That I know that's a big part of what you talk about, but also if it's one meeting that you guys catch up with everybody at the end of the year, it's also probably got to be allocations and where your money is and what we're looking at.
Yeah, I mean, taxes is certainly a big part of a lot of the conversations. Required minimum distributions that have to come out of your IRAs, if you're required to, or inherited IRAs or Roth IRAs for that matter, by the end of the year, or else you'll get penalized by the IRS. So there's a lot of things that fall on a December 31st deadline that you need to act on, and you don't want to miss the opportunity. In some cases, with taxes, you could be penalizing yourself, or with RMDs, you're going to get penalized by the IRS. Good old Uncle Sam. So those types of matters are important to really sit down and look at as the end of the year is here, on top of other things like, how are your accounts performing? Do we need to make any changes? And those things also obviously come into the conversation, but the pressing matters are the year-end matters, things that need to be done.
So you're setting yourself up, hopefully, for a good tax return next year and setting yourself up for a good year next year. This has been, so far, a pretty good year in the stock market. And we talk about, tax loss harvesting. We talk about if you've had losses someplace, you can offset some of those gains. But you have a good year in the stock market. I would imagine there are some individual holdings that might not have done as well. So we're looking at that as well, kind of the yin and the yang of the year.
Yeah, there's a few things under that kind of headline. You could be looking at some of your bond funds, bond index funds, things of that nature that might have losses in them, long-term losses, right? If you've held them over the last few years, 3 to 5, 6 years plus, right? Well, you could be looking at a loss on those positions, and the bond market is more attractive than it has been, right? So it might be time to unload that and, get into a different bond position. So taking advantage of a loss on that front. You might have an underperforming equity position that you want to get rid of, unload, and move into another position by the end of the year to take advantage of a loss on that side. And then the other thing is like the looming Tax Cut and Jobs Act tax code that's going to be expiring at the end of 2025. You want to take a look and see how that's going to affect you, because if it is going to affect you negatively, Well, you have 2 years under the current tax code to make some changes and take advantage of the current tax situation. So, the more time you have, the better. So, if you're acting this year, well, you got this year and next year. If you wait until next year to make any changes to take advantage of it, well, you only got 1 year and less ability to spread out taxes over those 2 years.
So you brought up bonds, and that's kind of a hot topic right now because interest rates are now starting to go down. As interest rates go up, bonds don't look so good. As interest rates go down, bonds do look better. And I would think that as interest rate goes up, if anybody's been buying CDs or buying bonds or buying money markets, they've been doing more short term. And now as interest rates start to go down, maybe are you looking more long term to lock people in past a year, 3 years, 5 years?
Absolutely. Like, we've been in a great kind of spot with interest rates over the last couple of years, whether it's money markets earning close to 5% or more, CDs earning close to 5% or more in a 1 or 2 year chassis. Well, those are going to start coming down. We'll see those start to come down. And bonds all of a sudden are becoming more attractive because yields are up in bond funds, bond index funds, ETFs, whatever it might be. But now, as the rates start to decline, we might see appreciation actually for the value of those funds on top of just the yield. And we haven't seen an attractive bond market in quite a while. We were in a very low interest rate environment for a fairly long period of time, and then rates increased significantly, over the course of the last four years or so. So, now it's more attractive, and people have been parking money in CDs for the last couple of years. And if you've gone on the short-term side of it, we're going to have a huge CD expiration date over the course of the next 1 year or so, right? All those CDs people threw money into that's going to be coming due, or money markets that aren't earning as of an attractive rate as they were. So that's going to be piling into the market or positions of some sort, right? So, there's an opportunity there in a lot of different areas, even though we've seen 2 fairly good years in the stock market thus far since the beginning of 23. There's a lot of opportunity still to be had.
So another thing that people think about at this time of the year is charitable contributions. At the end of the year,
Absolutely.
you talked about RMDs. Somebody might take that RMD, give it to a charity, give it to their church at the end of the year. Talk to me about that, because a lot of times these things benefit the person you're giving the money to, but it doesn't necessarily benefit you. You can work out some of that so that you can realize some of that benefit.
When looking at charitable contributions, it's a conversation you should always be having with your advisor. Sometimes your advisor might not even be aware you're making charitable contributions. But let's just say you're 71 years old. You have, IRAs, 401ks, whatever it might be, and you have that built up and you don't necessarily need access to it. And you're making charitable contributions out of your current savings and checkings. Well, you can do it on a tax deduction basis and above the line deduction, which is great because it just comes off your income as opposed to having to file for the deduction on your tax when you submit your taxes. And you don't pay taxes by making that. So you could take the same $500 if that's what it might be that you're contributing out of your checking account to the charity, XYZ. Well, if you take it out of your IRA, same $500, you don't have to pay taxes on it, and it doesn't affect the charity either. So it's kind of a no-brainer in terms of if you fit in the situation and you are making charitable contributions, explore the options you have outside of just the striking a check, the old way of doing it.
So I know that also you handle and help with all sorts of financial decisions of your clients. It's not just, let's meet once a year. As things change in your life, it could be a health thing that changes. All of a sudden, I've got to do some things to outfit my house or something like that helps out there. Or maybe I need to change a Medicare plan because of the fact that now I've got a new diagnosis. I got to get a new drug that I'm on now. There's all sorts of things like that. But another part of your financial life is insurance. When you get into your 50s and 60s, it's a little bit different because we've always just bought a term insurance to cover us if we're gone and we want to make sure our spouse and our kids are taken care of. Now the kids are gone, they're married, they're off, and now you change your insurance needs. And these are things that can be looked at regularly by your financial advisor to make sure you're covered. It's not just auto insurance, but life insurance, and you can actually use insurance later in life for, things like long-term care.
Absolutely, yeah. Life insurance, there's a lot of variations of life insurance, right? You mentioned term. Term's great. It's for a purpose. You know, I have some term insurance. I have a young child, and if something were to happen to me, it's to help him fund his education, you know, pay off any debts we have, mortgage, etc. And it fits that purpose. It's cost effective, and it's a 30-year policy. Well, at year 31, I'm not going to want to keep it because the insurance company's going to jack up rates, right? So, you know, there's different variations, like you mentioned. There's universal life, whole life policies, which are more permanent and can be used for other needs beyond just traditional life insurance. You pass away and your estate or heirs receive the benefit. Well, there's policies that you can use or look into that have long-term care benefits to them, right? So you can use it in your lifetime, and it puts less of a burden on your other assets. You don't have to necessarily self-fund. You'd be paying for pennies on the dollar as opposed to dollar for dollar by self-funding, right? So, you know, different variations of the life insurance, and there's a lot of unique products nowadays that have long-term care benefits, and long-term care benefits are a pretty important talking point for a lot of people I sit down with as you get older. Your needs change, your wants change, and you want to make sure you protect things. Well, protecting yourself from any catastrophes that would really put a burden on your assets, well, that's one of the ways to look into it and avoid that issue.
It is one of the things that we all should do with our financial advisor, at least get together with them once a year. As your life changes, certainly you want to have a meeting. But at the end of the year, it is a very, very important thing, especially from a tax planning standpoint, to sit down and talk through some of those things. Don't let it go till after Thanksgiving and say, oh, yeah, 2 weeks left in the year, I'm going to do this. Give us a call now at Rubino and Lang Wealth Partners. Let's get on the calendar to make sure we're not in a rush by the end of the year, because you know how the year goes.
Yes.
Give us a look on our website, which is 365retirement.com. 365retirement.com. There you'll get to our website. In the upper right-hand corner, it'll say Talk to an Advisor. You can click right there, and that'll get you on your way. We'll set up a 15-minute meeting to kind of get to know you and explain a little bit what happens in that 15-minute conversation, Ryan, because that's where all the questions get out there, and then that kind of leads to more, doesn't it?
Exactly right. Yeah. So, I always start it with, telling them a little bit about us in our company. And then I ask, what their current situation is. And then we go through their situation to see if it's a fit and there's something we can help them with, or at least steer them in the right direction. And then any questions they may have before they, proceed further down the road with us that they want answered, so that they feel comfortable proceeding further down the road. But that 15-minute call is an exploratory call. See if it's a right fit on both sides, not just our end, not just, the potential client's end or prospect's end, to see if they want to progress further in our conversations and see if there's an opportunity for us to help each other. And if there is, then we would set up the next steps, and there's no charge for that.
We call it a 365 retirement plan because it works 365 days a year where you're in your retirement. You're not working those times, but your money is and your plan is. And that's exactly what we need. If you do not have a financial advisor, if you do not have somebody helping you with your money, if you haven't talked about your retirement, give us a call. Let's have that 15-minute meeting, find out what your concerns are and how we might be able to help. Again, you can find us at 365retirement.com. We thank you so much for listening, and we'll see you next time here on the 365 Retirement Podcast.
Ryan Marston and John Conley are investment advisor representatives of Brookstone Wealth Advisors, LLC, a registered investment advisor. Exposure to ideas and financial vehicles discussed should not be considered investment advice or recommendation to buy or sell any financial vehicle. Past performance is not a guarantee of future results. Investments can fluctuate and when redeemed may be worth more or less than when originally invested. Investment financial professionals are not licensed in all 50 states. To find out if Sam Lang is licensed in your state, please call 617-630-8787. Rubino and Lang Wealth Partners is not affiliated with nor endorsed by the Social Security Administration or any other government agency and does not provide legal or tax advice. Annuity guarantees rely solely on the financial strength and claims paying ability of the issuing insurance company. By contacting us, you may be provided with information about insurance and annuity products offered through Rubino and Lang Insurance Agency, LLC, Massachusetts Insurance License number 1783398.